Hi there, welcome back. My name is Joe Escobedo, and welcome back to the C Word. I'm here with Daniel Hakuli, LinkedIn's content marketing evangelist, and today we're talking about content distribution. So how do you go about distributing your content so it reaches the right audiences? Now, Daniel, a common question I get is, we're doing a lot of organic promotions, we're, syndicating on, social media. Is there any advantage of putting a little bit of money behind it and doing some paid versus organic?
Well, working for LinkedIn, of course I'm going to say yes. But I would never advise somebody to just do paid, right? Or just do organic. You do need to do a combination of both. The advantages of doing paid sits in the ability to give you control over the audience you want to have. So the idea is that you can target specific audiences. Say, for example, you want to reach the CMO or the IT decision maker. The paid actually guarantees that it will hit the target audiences that you have. You don't get that kind of security when you're actually doing organic posting. So with organic posting, what you're really relying on is a machine learned algorithm who will then promote it to put it in front of certain people. And then based on the engagement that those people have over a certain time limit, then it will think about advancing it further on. The second thing you're relying on with organic is you're relying on your community itself to amplify it for you. And that doesn't always happen the way you want. So if you're investing a fair bit of money behind your content, you don't want to just give it over to the community to just and hope and pray that they're actually going to get it to the right people. It'd be great if it did, but let's face it, not every piece of content goes viral, which is exactly what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
Instead, you kind of still want to maintain a level of control over who actually sees this so that you're getting the most amount of value you have from that. And paid is the way to do that, right? I mean, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the control to amplify that content to the right people, to the target audience that you want to see that content for.
Okay. Now, in terms of breakdowns, would you say that marketers should allocate a certain budget for the creation versus the distribution versus?
Yeah. So it's a tough thing, and it varies for everybody. But the idea is think about 20% of your budget goes into content creation and 80% of it goes into distribution. And the reason why we say this is because it's more important for you to get the right people in front of the content than it is often to have the right content in some respects. That said, it's also quite cheap to make good quality content if you're doing it right? If you have a very clear strategy, if you have very clear objectives, if you have a good team behind you who can create the stuff and you've got a great idea, then you can go ahead and create the content pretty cheaply. And we see some very, very high-performing content that doesn't cost $120,000 or $1 million to create a television commercial, right? A decent blog post, which spends 5 hours of your time to create, some good quality research, can go just as far and get just as many people. But with the distribution, you obviously want to guarantee that you can get it towards the right people, and that often requires you a significant more investment. And so it is a ratio that is not for everybody, and it is something to think about how you should do it yourself. But we often say that a 20 to 80% split between content creation and content distribution in terms of your budget is a good mix. I think that's echoed. We see that echoed with a few of the other social channels as well. And it's just for that reason. We have a client that I've been working with who uses paid in a way around a funnel. So what they do is they actually create very heavily product-focused, branded, advertorial content. And they use paid to promote that type of content out. And the reason why is because they want to hit a very, very specific audience with that type of content to convince them to make the purchase. It's a very transactional intent orientated. But then they use a combination of paid and organic to send things like thought leadership out there or higher funnel intent content pieces. And for them, that works really, really well because they don't really need, they want that kind of content to hit a broader audience. They don't have a very clear audience mindset in mind. And so when you're thinking on the B2B space, using paid to target the decision maker, but then using a combination of organic and paid to actually push it out towards people who would also find that content valuable but may not be able to make the decision. So the buying committee, for example, people who can influence the decision maker. So they're using that really effectively, where they're splitting it between sort of 80% organic and 20% paid on the higher funnel, and then 100% paid for their very, very branded content that they want to control who actually sees that content and not make sure that content purpose goes to waste.
I mean, I think the funnel approach makes sense because the nature of kind of the top of the awareness funnel is you want it to reach a broader audience.
Yeah.
And so by doing that, you don't want to limit it to...
Yeah, and so what they're kind of doing is they're using the paid element of that broader audience reach to just kickstart the momentum, right? So they're putting it to the right people that they believe will be able to share it or find it relevant, and then they're hoping that those people will then organically share it out. They're also leveraging their employees a lot, right? And this is an unsung weapon on LinkedIn that you don't see in other platforms, where the brand might have a piece of content, but if you get 20% of your employees, or just 10% or 5% of your employees to share out that content, you can increase the reach of that content organically, exponentially. It's the distribution, using your employees as a distribution channel itself is extremely powerful. And on LinkedIn, it's even more so. When you think about how many connections or followers your brand page has, to how many followers your CMO has, or your CEO has, or your digital manager has. You get 3 of those people to share it out, and you can probably reach more people organically from your employees than you can actually from your brand page.
I mean, I think that's a great point. I think your employees can be your strongest content distribution.
Absolutely,
channels.
they can be very, very strong. But again, the difference is when you're using paid, you want to be able to have that control to make sure that the right audience sees, not just any audience. And so that's what you would use that for.
I think, once again, the advantage, I guess, leveraging your employee network is, yes, they could have a larger audience, and 2, they tend to connect with like-minded individuals.
Totally right. So the relevance within their network will work very, very well as well. Yes. So encouraging your employees or incentivizing your employees to push content and distribute content out will likely increase better performance for you. Get more eyeballs on the content, result in more traffic, which might result in better trust, more actions, better conversions.
So that's one thing I work with my clients in terms of enabling their employees to share. And I think it goes back to incentivizing and motivating, because if you don't see the value in it, you're not going to take the time or effort to go in and share relevant content. So it's about how do you make it so it's impacts their...
So I have a great exercise for that, right?
Okay.
So you're a marketer, you're creating a piece of content. Before you publish the content, take it to the person within your organization who would find this content the most valuable. So if you're trying to target CMOs, take it to your CMO, put it in front of them and go, did you learn something from this piece of content? Is this content valuable? Would you share this content out? If the answer is not really, it's kind of the same as what I've already read or something like that, then you've got the wrong type of content that to expect a really great result from. You want to wow your own CMO or your own CEO with the content you produce, so that it will wow every other CMO and CEO in the space, right? So it's just a very simple exercise. Finding the right person that will find that content valuable within your organization, get them to cast their eye over it and see whether or not they find it valuable. And if they do, let's target it to very similar people like them. They will actually then say, look, that was really interesting. I'm going to share this with my team, and I'm going to get all my team to share it out as well, right? So the idea is here to really get people on board with the type of content you're creating and get them to see the value that's behind it as well.
That's a great exercise. Definitely very helpful for a lot of marketers.